Alright folks, I think it's working. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وصلوات الله وسلامه على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك يا رب الكريم. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. Good evening to all of the folks who are in the UK. Good afternoon to the Yanks, the Canadians. Good evening or late evening if you're still awake in the Middle East, which is possible, to be honest. And those who are in the Far East, Sabah al-Noor, Sabah al-Khair, Sabah al-Ful. All right, guys. What I need to know is a couple of things. First of all, a warning you need to know is that the internet is even worse than worse standards. So you need to be aware of that fact. That's the first thing. So it's already rubbish here anyway, but now it's extra special rubbish, number one. Number two, as a result, I have had to make some few changes. Some of those changes mean that I am not playing my video. So you know when I'm teaching, I'm like this. I can see myself on the screen. All right, that's fine. That's that. But that's just showing me my own feed here. Doesn't tell me whether the feed has stopped for you. So for that, I have an eye on the portal, which is here, and I play my video. But because my internet is so rubbish, I can't even play my own YouTube video. So you need to be far more active in the comments, okay? Super active in the comments. I need immediate comments. Yes, no, you're stopped, yeah, the video's gone, blah, 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 blah. Is that clear, everybody? That's very, very important. So I need, first of all, 5. Okay, all right, good. So it's not too bad. So at least there's a good connection going on there. So that's, I'm happy with that. That's actually really positive to see. So again, if you see the video pause or some kind of problem, write it in the comments immediately, okay? And if you are not seeing a problem and someone else is seeing a problem, please respond immediately as well and say, no, it's okay, my side. This must be your connection, so that I don't sit here in a paranoid state, okay? The next thing I need to say, so the internet, that's the next. The next thing I need to say is that everybody, they are always, Russian Jess are always a package deal. Come on, Danish. You need to have, when on your video that you're playing, the red dot should be playing. The red dot should be on. If the red dot is not there, you are behind. So Russian Jess are definitely behind. Ulfa is definitely behind, okay? You're not live. So press that button so that you're live. Everybody should be in tune. I think you should be back. I'm back, right? Yeah. Yeah, that actually wasn't even the internet. That's just how stupid the system is, in that I've put the phone on Do Not Disturb. I've put on all the rest of it, blah de blah. And it, because I can't, yeah, I told you guys an example that the Wi-Fi is so rubbish. The landline is so rubbish. You know, I had the laugh earlier when I was telling someone that, you know, the internet is so rubbish. And he goes to me, why don't you wire it? I said, Habibi, I didn't say that the Wi-Fi, yani reception. I have Wi-Fi, I have Unify, I have Ubiquity. I have Ubiquity routers. I nearly became Canadian, oh my God, right? Ubiquity Unify is the best you can, well, it's not the best, but it's like super expensive stuff which I bought from the UK. So my problem is not the Wi-Fi network. My problem is the actual internet. But I now have to, I can't rely on the internet. So I'm using the mobile phone here, and it's 4G. And that itself is so rubbish here as well. So even the 3G is so rubbish. Dunya, balash. Ha, Fatima? Balash. Right? Anyway, so what we're going to, so what happens is that the network keeps sending me messages which says basically you've got 5 seconds left, you've got 10 seconds left of your internet, blah, 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 blah. So in any case, I can't believe, Adil Yani, that I'm saying that the internet in Pakistan is better than Egypt. Dunya, can you flip and believe that? Okay, yeah, don't go by the brown, this is all light. Look, I'll make myself look old and I'll make myself look young. This is fuzzy light thingies. I can make myself look like I'm 30. Look, see that? Then I can make myself look like I'm 100. Anyway, right, folks. So that's the second part. The third part is that for some reason I didn't write down, and by the way, I bought some LP pens. I went into shop and I saw 2 pens. I said, they've got what it takes to be LP pens. So the LP pen is nice 0.4 millimeter markers. Look beautiful, and they will look very nice in my book. And I left them in the other room. There's no way I'm getting up because I'm on the floor. And I'm of that age now that getting up every time and getting down is like it's the Titanic turning around. See, Mesa has already worked out what I'm basically saying. We are at the top of the page 88. Wa alaikum salam, Zakaria. Allahu Akbar. Welcome back, Habibi, welcome back. He's been under a lot of pressure doing work and studies and things like that. That's what he said on Telegram anyway. So Mesa, first of all, we're very happy to have you back. That's so important, okay, as well. She goes missing for one dars and the whole thing went complete sideways. Nobody knows what is going on. Yeah, it was, well, I'm not gonna lie, it was a nice lesson last week, by the way. Let's just not completely dismiss our thingy, but let's also be honest that we had no idea where we were and how to find anything without Mesa. Okay, that's also important. Now, Mesa, what's important for me is that you tell me, actually, وَيُسَنُّ صَلَاةَ الضُّحَى. Really, is that where we are? Really? Yeah, I think no. Oh, we're at the top of page 88. Yeah, no, she's right. She's talking about the text. Yeah, we're starting to talk about the best timings for Duha prayer. We started this. Yeah, exactly. And I just remember I wanted to just say a few things. So I think we can start at the top of 88. Yeah. We can start with the top of 88. So the section that we're covering, okay, the section we're covering is وتسن صلاة الضحى وأقلها ركعتان وأكثرها ثمان ووقتها من خروج وقت النهي إلى قبيل الزوال. That the Duha prayer is a sunnah. It is a minimum of 2 units and a maximum of 8. Its time is from the end of the prohibited time until just before the moment of zawal. That's the section that we are covering, okay, today. Whilst I have the opportunity, one of the hadith that we mentioned was, in fact, it might still be here. Why not? One of the reasons we know that it is a sunnah and we believe that it is a sunnah is the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, narrated by Imam Bukhari, where he said, أوصاني خليلي صلى الله عليه وسلم بثلاث ركعتي الضحى. My dear friend advised me to 3 things, okay. The first of them is 2 units of Salatul Duha, وأن أوتر قبل أن أنام, and that I pray witr before I go to sleep, وَالصِّيَامُ ثَلَاثَةَ أَيَّامٍ مِنْ كُلِّ شَهْرٍ. And the fasting of 3 days from each month. Those 3 days started now, okay, in Egypt time and a lot of the calendars. So those are the 13th and the 14th and the 15th, and they are known as Ayyam al-Biyad, the bright days, the white days, following the fact that it's the bright nights because the moon is full, the 13th, 14th and 15th of the lunar calendar. So a reminder that tomorrow being Thursday, which is a sunnah to fast, the Prophet ﷺ said, I love to fast Thursdays. The deeds are presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Thursdays, and I love that my deeds are presented and I am fasting. Wa ana sa'im. So it's not just that you don't eat, guys, but you try to do something a bit extra, make your day a bit different, so that it's not just different because you didn't eat, because people are dieting day and night and they don't eat, and people are having late lunches and teas right now, and Maghrib is probably what's Maghrib in UK? I haven't been in UK for like weeks, by the way. It's been like a month. Are we knocking in 4:30 now? What we're saying in Maghrib times, like 4:30 probably? Probably on the door of a 4:30, aren't we? 4:13. That's a Londoner, yeah? 5 p.m. in Canada. I mean, that's a late lunch. Come on, guys. Come on. It's a late lunch, man. Do you know what I mean? For Shazad Salim, that's not even breakfast time. Shazad Salim, you know what Shazad Salim did? He's turned into Shazad Salim has turned into, he doesn't have any skeletons in the closet because he is actually that skeleton in the closet. Do you just realize that? I don't even want to say MashaAllah. I have to say MashaAllah, but the whole situation is a disaster. So anyway, yeah. Remember, guys, press the live button. Yeah, some of you are still behind. Yeah. So we're on the 4:30s. And that's going to get back to, but by the time I get back and whatever, that's going to be around the 3:50s and the 3, so, it's a short day, guys. You know what I mean? So let's, first of all, not be scared of the fasting or getting hungry, you're right. But secondly, the reason I made this point is because it's so easy now to fast that people just focus on just how easy it is to fast, and they forget that a fasting day is meant to be a day which is different to your normal day. So you're watching less baqwas, you're playing less baqwas, you are doing more dhikr, you're reading more Quran, you are praying more sunnah. Your fasting day has got to be a different day. It can't be, oh, it's different because I didn't eat. Are you kidding me? All right? No. All right? Anyway, so a reminder that Thursday being Thursday tomorrow and the first day of the 3 days, you make a double intention, and that's not a verbal one. It's in your heart that, Ya Allah, accept this fast from me, both for it being Ayyam al-Biyad, one of the 3 days that is the sunnah to fast, and it being a Thursday. And for those folks who have, whose 13th is tomorrow night, because the night comes before the day, and then therefore your fasting starts on Friday, then that's even better. That means you've got an excuse to fast Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then cheeky Monday on top. It's 5 straight days, and then you can get back to the game again, and even Monday, Thursday every week, which really, to be honest, in winter time's got to be a norm. And then maybe even move on to like little cheeky fast of Dawood, 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, 1 day off. As Ahlam said, winter really is good for ibadah, all round, and whether it's fasting, whether it's salah, whether it's tahajjud, whatever. My point, the wider point that I need to mention is, and listen, I know that we've got stuff to talk about in the class, and I have to think about where I want to speak about this. Obviously, for the non-UK folks, this is not so relevant because there's politics involved. But for those that are of Asian background and into cricket and things like that, then of course it will be irrelevant. We've not discussed the authenticity of the narrations of the 3 white days, but it is a good point with that, because there's two points to be brought up. Firstly is what I wanted to show. One second. Just so that Widad's question is not left in the point, people might turn around and say, what do you mean authenticity? The hadith is in Bukhari. And I gave the reference to it last week. The hadith is in Bukhari. The question is not whether the hadith is in Bukhari or not. The hadith is in Bukhari. This particular narration doesn't mention the 3 white days, Ayyam al-Bid itself. And it doesn't necessarily mention that it is the 13, 14, 15. That's just the position of the majority of scholars. There are some scholars that said that these 3 white days that are mentioned in this hadith are not actually the 3 middle days of the month, and they shouldn't be specified, but they should be seen to be done here and there. Some said they done just like random. Others said that you would be literally counting them, whether you did it on a Monday or a Thursday or whatever, etc., etc., etc. You can't, Chaudhry, you can't combine Monday and Thursday with the fast of Dawood in its entirety. But what you're getting is a better fast, right? So, and it's a very difficult fast, and it's not a fast that a person should do. So when it comes to fasting, the Prophet ﷺ told us that the sunnah is a simple and easy one. The Prophet ﷺ never used to fast the fast of Dawood, by the way. Let me just make that clear. That's very clear because Aisha radiallahu anha said, sometimes the Prophet ﷺ would fast so much that you'd think that he doesn't do anything but fast. Sometimes he would not fast for so long that you'd just think that he never fasts, right? And so that's clear that he's not fasting the fast of Dawood, which is the best fast, the highest level fast, day on, day off, day on, day off. But the scholars differed over what that means, whether it's the best, or whether it's the sunnah is best, which is to just stick to something which is consistent and small and easy, which is every Monday, every Thursday, and then 3 days from the month. So that answers that question, Chaudhry. Yeah, that if you go for the fasting of every day, every alternate day, you will get Mondays and Thursdays here and there, and you'll capture it, of course. But will you get Monday and Thursday every week? Of course you won't. That maths show that anyway. But then it's better than just fasting the Monday and Thursday, and it's not something which is very easy to do for a long period of time. So in the winter, if you did it for a short period of time, that's great. But back to Widad's point, and Widad, correct me if this is what you're referring to, right? Unless you're talking about something completely different. But your point is that, yeah, this hadith only tells us 3 days. It doesn't tell us, that it's the 3 white days. And there is, the hadith that speak and actually articulate 3 white days and Ayyam al-Bid as a phrase, they are certainly not in Bukhari, and they are weaker, and there is question about it. But the majority applied the weakness of those hadith mentioning what those days are, the authenticity of this hadith which says 3 days in the month, and they interpolated it together, and that's why the majority go with these 3, 4, 13th, 14th, and 15th. But I like the position that critiques that it is actually not referring to the 3 white days. But the majority of scholars are comfortable with that, and we'll stick with that. That's a nice and convenient system. What I was going to say is that with that, you didn't answer my question. What's the jazak, man? I said, was this your angle? Was this where your question came from? The idea that you've heard that the thingy, or you what? Because there's another angle as well, but that's a lot deeper. There is another angle as well, but it's a lot deeper, and I don't know if I want to go into that now, but the point I wanted to make is that there are some issues, and you know that when big things happen, then we do need to spend some time on it. The case which is rocking the headlines at the moment is about a brother called Azim Rafiq, okay? And I don't want to exactly actually make it too much a freestyle lesson, because I don't want to well, a certain somebody is going on Umrah, right? So there you go. That's what that's what Umrah Tarbiyah programs are for, when you got lots of coach journeys to kill and whatever. That's where the Tarbiyah happens. So let's make sure we do that. And Danish, this is what you should have been doing, as opposed to just thinking about, I don't know, whatever you were thinking about, camera angles and shots and stuff. Listen, don't be, what are you making me hate for? What are you making me hate for? All right. All right, enough of that. Enough of the 3 white days. I'm just saying fast, guys, tomorrow, okay? And the next 3 days, it'll be good. We do need to mention this thing, but I am worried that we don't do anything from the lesson. So should we talk about that first, or whether... No, actually, let's talk about that first. Let's just get it off the table, all right? I just want to say that the last couple of weeks for me has been very difficult. So the reason why this is important for everybody, whatever country you're in, is because virtually everybody here knows, yeah. Honestly, it's so hot and there's no way that I can get out. So hot. Come here, is that you? Who's that? Come here. Is that the remote for the thingy? Didn't I just grab that? Give it to me, Yara. You know why I'm wearing, yes, okay, you can. You know why, Zakaria, I'm wearing a hoodie? Because it was cold, number one. And number two, okay, because it was cold. Number two, I've got hot. Why have I got hot? Because, honestly, without any exaggeration, I've just started to get really hot because the subject has been really stressful. Number three is because if I take the hoodie off, it's a really disrespectful kind of t-shirt, which I can't be wearing to this kind of highly honorable class. That's the reason, okay? Because when I am in Egypt, the roads where I live are so dirty, so thingy, that to wear a thobe all the time is just disrespectful to the thobe. I don't like it. So I wear a lot of t-shirts and, whatever. The t-shirt's not disrespectful. It's teaching this class in a little t-shirt, which is just, the t-shirt's the most respectful one in the world. Look at that. Come on, bro. Come on. Yes, bro. There ain't nothing disrespectful about t-shirts that I wear, bro. Are you kidding me? That's all smoke. Come on. Anyway, disrespectful. Come on. So, no, I mean, I don't want to disrespect you lot, because USA's got to know Rivers. They need to know. That's why. There's Mesa and 23. There's Sumera. Bang on cue. The girls are like, what the hell's going on? They want to know about the cricket. Actually, at least that's something. What I want to say is that, so Azim, so I don't know Azim personally, okay? Adil Rashid, who is, if you're into cricket, you obviously are going to know this. If you don't, then whatever. There are a couple of current cricket players who I am very close with for maybe about 10 years, okay? Through different reasons and different things, etc., etc. One reason being because they're practicing and they do actually follow lessons and things like that. They are Adil Rashid and Mu'in Ali. Mu'in Ali closest of all, and then Adil obviously is close. So the what happened? And you guys know how much I like the sport anyway and whatever. But Azim is someone that I don't know, and he is Adil's business partner. And he was an okay cricketer as well. But then about a year and a bit ago, or a year and a half ago, I was informed of this kind of situation, and Adil was put in this scenario where he started an employment tribunal against Yorkshire Cricket Club on the issue of racism, blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to bore you all from the details. The problem is a complicated one. It is actually very complicated because, as Adil said earlier on, and as everyone knows, anyone who's a Paki, right, knows, anyone who's brown, anyone who's ethnic, anyone who's black, anyone who's whatever it is, okay? We all know that white privilege is real, racism is real. We don't need to, we always need to be purer, better, and so on and so forth, okay? And if you're Muslim, then you know that, oh, that also holds you back. So that's something standard, right? You've always had to be more, better, perfect, etc., etc. Now, the level of resistance that you faced, whether it's entry into university, entry into a job, entry into progression in sport, it doesn't matter. You don't need to be a sportsman to know this. But it differs. It's differed, okay? And we also know the concept of power structures, and you make too much noise, then you will suffer as a result. And so for the last year and a half, the Azim situation in itself was not very clear, because Azim himself, right? How can I say this? Azim himself was someone who used to give a lot back. And I mean, So what I'm saying is that he didn't hold back himself. He get cussed, he would cuss back. He would get sworn at, he would swear back. He would be racially abused, he would racially abuse back. All right? Now, so like I said, I don't mind sharing this with you. This is not something which is private, but it is kind of private, right? And so this is the right level of privacy, because everybody knows you're not allowed to broadcast this online, and Mesa's not going to be putting this in the notes. But it is important for us to learn a lesson, and it's also important for us as a community to understand the political kind of angle, and to understand and not getting onto bandwagons, and to understand the truth behind the truth, and there's so many lessons, and I want to share some of them with you, with a behind the scenes angle, but also straight in front. So Zara has given an example and used the word Zimbo, okay? The fact that one of the players, he had some Zimbabwean kind of heritage, and he would call my guy Paki, and so he would call him a Zimbo back, okay? This is a classic example of why this situation is such a huge mess. Because on one hand, we, meaning myself, was not very comfortable backing Azim publicly, because I just don't think that he was any much better than everybody that was abusing him, to a level. At the same time, so that's one factor, okay? He would swear back and fight back and cuss back, and it wouldn't really hold him back so much at the playing level. What we weren't aware, what I wasn't aware, what certainly many people were not aware of, is the institutionalized level that the racism was at, okay? And by that I mean that the structures themselves, the power structures themselves, were definitely gonna block progression and so on, okay? Mesa, it's gonna take too long, you're gonna have to research it yourself, okay? But I'm trying to speak in general terms as much as possible about just institutionalized racism. So here we are, like Adil himself, who's in a very difficult situation here, because he has got very, very high profile sponsors, his career, people pulling the strings, people making too much noise. There's very much definitely a fear. This is complete nonsense if people think that the reason why people don't speak out is because it's not there. It's because people are afraid, and people don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to, and they want to protect their careers. It's their livelihood at the end of the day, and and this is important Islamically. There's a big difference between enjoining the good and doing haram. What I mean by that is that staying silent, okay, is one thing. Okay, staying silent is one thing, and not enjoying the good, but lying is something else. And as long as you don't lie, then it is acceptable. This goes back to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ of the weakest of Iman, okay? That a person should change something by their hand. If they can't, they change it then by speaking out against it. And if that, فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ, the hadith each time, يعني فليغيره بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. Okay, so a person sees an evil, they change it, they speak up against it. If someone's being racist against them or somebody else, you've got to go and grab that person and, you know, fix it. If not, you write about it. That's the speaking. You advertise it. If not, then in your heart, you hate it, but you're not doing anything about it. And that's the weakest of faith. But the point of the hadith is that it's still faith. And the point of the hadith is that there is some concept of personal ability. Al-istita'a differs from people to people. And so I want to say that although it might not be honorable and it might not be heroic staying quiet, well, clearly it's not heroic, okay, and not speaking up or not backing other people, it's still an acceptable Islamic position to be quiet as long as you don't cause harm actively, as long as you don't do haram actively, okay? That's yani the point. And it's not just, I'm not actually defending Azim. Azim not speaking up at the time is obvious. Why? Because at the time, which was years ago that this was happening, it's just like we all know the answer to that. Only the kuffs would say something like that to us. Or only white people would say that to someone. Why didn't you speak up at the time? We all know at that moment why we shook that lady's hand, or we, I don't know, didn't speak up when someone was racist towards us, because we know that that's us out the game. Okay, I tell people right now, always in an interview, do not say that you want a prayer room, or you want Jum'ah, or you need gaps for prayer, whatever, whatnot. Bro, your hijab and your beard is doing enough of that. If you got to the interview and say, Alhamdulillah, don't bring up any religion. Now people say that's very weak and that's whatever, whatnot. No, that's very realistic. I've been there a long time. I know the structures. I've been there. It doesn't matter whether it's corporate, whether it's management, whether it's retail. People don't and are not interested, okay? And you can get that sorted afterwards. If you're just as good as you are, if you are, this is why we have been brought up to be, this is why we've been brought up to be always planning to try to be better and bigger and better and bigger than the rest, because that's what's worked for us. If you look at, for example, now in the England dressing room, it's crazy the lengths that they go to accommodate Mu'in and Adil Rashid. The reason is not because they're packy. The reason is because they are brilliant. The reason is we don't have another spinning all-rounder that can hit the ball like Mu'in does. The reason is because we don't have a leg spinner of any color, let alone someone who is as good as Adil Rashid, right? That's the fundamental reason. When you become that good, they will, Mohamed Salah and what he's been able to implement at Liverpool Football Club in terms of prayer rooms, changing of policies, the level of Islamophobia going down amongst the supporters because they're just so frightened that they might insult him so that he leaves. I'll tell you right now, if he was to leave like he has the right to do, he's at the end of a contract this season. He deserves to be paid £500,000 a week. That's the going rate for someone who's the best player in the world right now. And if they don't give it to him and he goes to another club that will give it to him, you think Islamophobia is going to suddenly disappear and stay at the same low levels that he's there at? They will be calling that. You'll watch the Muslims and what happens to them when Muhammad Salah leaves. Because the people are wasakh, they are disgusting, right? Racism is a reality. Racism is latent in all people. It is there as a way of expressing your anger and getting over or trying to get one extra upon the other person for some reason. Whether it's for fun reason or anger, when it comes out of people who say, I don't have a bone of racism in me, but then in a fight it comes out. Because I've spoken about this a number of times. Racism is not a thing which exists in the form of racism. Racism exists in every single human being in a generic form of trying to get one up on the other person in a difficult moment or in a pressurized moment or in a moment where you need to dehumanize the other person. And racism is just a convenient one. It's the most easiest one to go to. The hair looks different, the skin looks different, the smell is different, the culture is different, so we just pick on it. Honestly, people are not actually racist in that they think that it's the color which is the big thing. If you were if you were more fatter, then you were blacker. If you were more dwarf, then you were pack. All right? That's the first thing they're going to go by. At the fundamental level, this is a human problem where they're trying to dehumanize the other. And then, you know what, if they're at that time, dwarfs are in vogue and fat people are in vogue, then we're going to pick on something else. It's just another way of just haram, criminal, you know, whatever. So my point is, what's the wider point I want to say? That you know, I don't need to educate or lecture any of you lot on why Azim didn't bring this up later on. That's easy. Why? Because the career would have been finished. I want you to know why we didn't speak out, why I didn't speak out, why Adil didn't speak out, and it was because we. It was a combination of because we can't. Because of the threat to the careers, the power structures still being very powerful, but there's also a difficult, awkward balance that needs to be openly discussed. And what is that? That is that, unfortunately, Muslims, sometimes when they are actually failing themselves in the quality of the work that's required or the level that's required, okay, they are looking for an excuse, and unfortunately we play the racism card. Now, we know that they always think we play the racism card all the time, and we know that's nonsense. It's because you're racist. You bunch of dogs, you're racist. But that doesn't mean that we don't play the racism card as well. And what is the racism card? The racism card is that the reason you're not in the team is because you're not good enough. Okay, or what is it? And then you just blame your own color. And the problem with that, okay, is that, or you didn't let me into the university because my name is Muhammad. No, you didn't, because actually you're not the right candidate. You clear, your grades are not there, whatever. And so you need to know that there are people that do automatically think, instead of thinking I'm not good enough or I'm not clever enough, they do you know, they play the racism card. They say it's because I'm Pakistani, it's because I'm black, or it's because I'm whatever. Now, you don't need to tell me that, no, it's because they're racist. I know most of the time, much of the time, it's because they're racist. But there are many instances when it's not actually racism. And so with Azim, there was a portion where there was a fear that he wasn't actually good enough. And that's the reason why he didn't get those. And that's coming from his closest people. Okay, from his best mates who are Muslims and so on, not people who are racist, whatever. So that makes the situation a bit more complicated as well. Not so easy to see the institutionalized racism when you yourself think, well, I don't actually think he's good enough, right? Okay, like well, anyway. And then I'll say another point as well. The other point is that sometimes we cannot speak up on an issue when we are guilty of the same thing. Not because we're guilty of the same thing, we shouldn't speak up. Not because of that, but because of then the problem that it will cause to you and to others. Let me give you an example. Those who have been in any kind of laddish environment, and I'm not talking about just dressing room banter, I'm talking workplace or the group of mates from uni, school, whatever, whatnot. This is actually normal. Them making fun of your culture and this and that and whatever, and us making so much fun of them. Redneck, Gora, flip him, bakwas, this, that, blah, 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 and cussing them and their culture and etc., etc. And the truth is that balance, okay, is actually a very well understood one by the people who are in those environments, and it maintains a very strong unity. Now, the problem, of course, is that shouldn't be there, of course. And that you can never equate between the oppressor. Nobody needs to lecture me on something which I'm a specialist in. Sociology and anthropology is my area. Okay, so I just want to make that clear that, people might be thinking, hold on, this is sounding very much like the colonialist kind of argument, blah, 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 blah. No. Just calm down. But you need to know that I am not going to report my friend who says to me, man, you Pacs, man, are the same. You lot don't, I'm not going to report. I'm not going to report I'm not going to report you see, guys, I need you just to stop pausing, stop posting, because these last 4 comments I really want to answer. Okay, I really want to answer because they are very, very important. Is that AC loud? Yeah. Okay, let me put that up a bit. No, it's not that loud. Shut up, man. Come on, bro, leave me alone. Right? So listen to me. Man, I really want to respond to that, but I needed to finish this point I was making. What was I saying? I knew I shouldn't have looked at the comment, man. Okay, yeah. So I want to say this, right? The balance. So if someone says to me, you know what, getting you lot to pay your subs is like getting blood out of a stone, I would laugh. And I would say, because you white boys are too stupid, that's why. That's what I would say to my friend who would say that to me. Now, a commentator, David Lloyd, right? He's in trouble because of a number of things that he said, and some of them which he deserves to be absolutely destroyed over. But this is one of the things that he's been taken to town on. And here's the thing, I don't know of any single sports player who doesn't believe that to be true. That, we have a reputation. There are things that we do. There are things that brown people do which is flipping weird. There are things that Pakis do which is really, is hilarious. And it's funny. We are tight. That's the reality, okay? Now, I don't need middle class Paks coming on saying, well, I'm not tight. Okay, well, good luck to you, yeah? Because the most Paks are tight, okay? We use margarine tubs, to keep our buttons and our sewing flipping things, bro. It is you come across a biscuit tin, it is 95% likely that there are no biscuits in there, but something else. Bro, that's our culture. We're the only bloody people who do that, okay? The Gore will never do that, never have done that. They never will do it, all right? Those are real differences, okay? Now, how racist that is or not, this needs to be spoken about. Now, here's my point. When someone says to me that it's like getting blood out of a stone, I'll turn around and I'll say something equivalent, insulting, back to that person there, right? I will say that to him in a way where I know that it's acceptable or not acceptable. You see, I didn't want to open this up because there's so much to unpack. At the moment, for example, you heard this in you heard them say Kevin, okay? You heard Azim give the example of Kevin becoming a phrase which was being used to refer to black people or whatever. Now, or Steve, for example, becoming a one size fits all phrase to be used for names they couldn't pronounce. And that's where Mo comes from, short for Mu'een or Muhammad, Mo Salah, Mo Ali. Mo Ali is Mu'een and Muhammad Salah, Mo Salah is Muhammad. It's just a catchphrase. Now, the question is that how racist is that? Now, you can say that is a problem or whatever. Okay, so are we ready now to say, and when we now report this, guys, yeah? What if I tell you that it was the Muslims in the dressing room that started this first with the Gore, and they started calling them all Johns? I've been calling Gore for Johns for years. how am I going to now haul my mate up against him saying that I'm a Kevin, which was his way of referring to me as, and all of the packs, when I was the first guy to I told you guys to not comment, man. That's the problem. You're ruining my flow. Okay, please pause, guys. Please pause, okay, because it's confusing me right now, and I know that, and I will answer questions on this, trust me. Let me have a little monologue, then I'll respond to the questions. So I'm not going to hold a problem with a person called, it's a little bit irritating as well, because, you know, if you knew how much I knew about what you're trying to teach me, which you're not teaching me anything, and it's just ruining everything for everyone. Okay? So the Kevin thing is a response to us calling them Johns in the first place. So how am I going to report that? And that's the level which exists. But that was well before someone then went and named their dog a Kevin and a black dog a Kevin, right? And that's the problem that we have. There's a level of racism which goes back and forth, which is maintaining an actual balance, okay? But then the real racism of those other people comes out. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't come out on our sides as well, but I don't know of us ever naming our dogs after white people or something like that. So we didn't go there. But then they went and took it to that level, right? And what does that show? That shows that deep ingrained xenophobia inside of people, okay? And as racism. And that's got to be called out. People have got to, whether they're punished or educated, that's a whole nother discussion, not getting into that. But I want you to know that this makes it very difficult for someone to call out the racism when they are guilty of it first, even if their level of racism is nowhere the level of, there's one thing calling someone a Kevin, and then another one, saying that I'm going to name my black dog a Kevin. It's a whole different level. But to the person who's calling everyone Jack, if I now say to you, right, this is the problem, because this is going to go to a legal case, and I don't know how much to tell you, how much not to tell you, but you've got to realize that some of our own players who are involved and implicated in this have been calling these people Johns and Jacks, and go and do this with your mom and do that with your dad, and all of these kind of, using the white stereotypes that we can think of, redneck stereotypes that we can think of, giving not just as good as we get, but far worse, actually, far more sometimes. Sometimes some of these gore themselves, you see, look at the way I speak. They are so miskeen that they don't even know how to respond back. So if you look at the current, I'm going to get into cricket mode now. If you look at the current dressing room, the changing room in the current England team, you've got many different types of characters. Ben Stokes is a certain level of character. Joe Root is a certain level of character. Owen Morgan is a certain level of character. There are certain players in that current dressing room that banter back and forth with the Muslims and the Asians to a level which is far worse than what Azim Rafiq was talking about in terms of the words, okay? None of them, alhamdulillah, is at a level where they go to like black dogs and all this kind of stupidity. But if you're talking about, the things which they say about, so for example, in the testimony, one of the major claims of racism is that, so they'd be playing, and fans who are sitting there, who are Asian, they would say, "Is that your mom and dad? Should I go and say hello?" Now, amongst teammates, that's so normal. It's racist, of course it's racist, but that's the acceptable level which is there. And you gotta know that the exact opposite is said as well. I saw your mum, by the way, to the Gora basically, and she's the dinner lady. We used to talk about dinner ladies, or when we used to go to school, we used to be dominant. as packs, in numbers. We used to say and the whites used to be few. We used to say to the whites all the time, this is your mum, right? The caretaker, this is your dad. It makes me laugh right now. The same goes on in the dressing rooms right now. And so they didn't want to come out and implicate themselves and implicate their teammates who they don't even consider to be racist. The statement that Adil Rashid released, I wrote word for word. It's my statement, okay? I wrote that weeks ago, and then I had to keep editing it because I've got a couple of friends who are in cricket journalism, and I was working with them to try to work out what the best time would be to release it in order to A, avoid prosecution, avoid anything illegal, avoid something libelous, avoid damage to Adil's career, for example, protect Azim because he was in a really dark place, okay? Stand up for those that have been affected, stand up for those who have not been good enough to be able to, at the best elite level, so that they were able to, kind of ignore the racism because it doesn't apply to them anymore because, the world worships them and nobody would dare to be racist to them, like a Mu'in and Adil kind of level, right? Okay, so we have to step up for the other people who are all left behind, the basic kind of level of sports people, etc., etc. So, and then also not feed into the whole woke nonsense, which is all about cancelling things and cancelling everyone, which I am so against, by the way. Very much against. I have no problem with people making mistakes, whatever, whatnot, blah, 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 blah. Super against the cancel culture. So I had to balance all of this and different things, and to release that statement, and we had to release it before the hearing, so that it would give Azim the legitimacy in the courts, etc., etc. Throw into this mess of trying to protect people, trying to hold people accountable, trying to protect this, but trying to throw into this some real dogs in there that needed to go down. Michael Vaughan is the perfect example. Let me tell you something. If you think that the statement, there's too many of you lot, right? We have to do something about that. Is Michael Vaughan's biggest problem? You've lost your mind. People say that day and night. I have no problem whatsoever with someone saying that. Okay, genuinely. I would say that to others. I would say that about ourselves in certain scenarios and situations. Why would I have a problem with Michael Vaughan saying that? That's not his problem. The reason that we want to take Michael Vaughan down is because he's an Islamophobic dog. He's a proper racist dog. He is someone who at his core hates Muslims, right? And we're convinced of that. That's why we want him destroyed. A lot of this was really about taking down the people who are very, very xenophobic. And you will see that at times, those that have actually said even more racist things, they are kind of being protected by Azim and others because they genuinely do not believe them to be bad people, just making silly mistakes, just part of an older generation, a different time and a different era where you could say these kind of things. And that's where the juxtaposition of the current woke movement is now causing the situation to become even more confused. I'm really sorry to everybody else who is not interested in this whatsoever, and we've destroyed this entire lesson. I really want to apologize for that. I really did think that there are some important Islamic lessons to learn here, because Muslims are listening to this and might be listening to this and thinking, no, sorry, this is hypocrisy, or you didn't do the right thing. No, actually, that's not correct. Actually, all of these things come under politics, okay, right? Actually, you don't know what you're talking about if you think this was un-Islamic, right? Because ultimately, what you saw, if you watched the whole hearing, people, one of the ladies, she very correctly and cleverly said to Azim, said, hey, so listen, man, did you hear anything else? Did you hear anything which was against gender? Did you hear anything homophobic? Okay, right? You know what he said? He straight out lied. He lied in a parliamentary hearing. Now, I mean, anyway, whether you say he lied or not, I don't know. Look, bro, it is absurd if he's going to try and say that, because he said no. He said no. I haven't heard anything said against women. I didn't hear anything said against gay. Are you kidding me? Are you flipping kidding me, bro? Day and night in these gatherings, our gatherings, lad gatherings, work gatherings, dressing room gatherings, girls are being taken down, but boys are being taken down, gay behavior is being taken down, whatever, whatnot. Now, I ask you a question, okay? You have to be very careful about being holier than thou and wanting to report everything, because you as a Muslim are as xenophobic as it gets when it comes to your values. Muslims by definition are a certain level of xenophobic people, because we do differentiate between ourselves and homosexuals, for example, or those that are doing X, Y, and Z. How are you going to explain that in a hearing? You tell me that. You tell me that. And that's why I always, I want to make it clear that I always go to pains to emphasize that you got to be very careful about what you complain about if you're guilty of something which is the same thing. And if you are going to do that, then the reason that we do it is to take a person down because of their hypocrisy, not because of our system. What do I mean by that? I mean by that the reason I'm going after Michael Vaughan, and I detest Michael Vaughan, and I hate him so much, and I want him destroyed, is because he is anti-Muslim, and that's the reason I'm doing it. But the reason I'm doing it openly and publicly and politically is because he's a criminal according to their rules. And we call out racist because he's racist according to their rules. If it was Islamic rules and the Sharia, okay, we would not be calling people out all the time on some of the things they did. On racism, we would, because we agree. But on gender discrimination, no, we wouldn't. Now, they would call it discrimination. We would say gender role differences, for example, because we do believe there are differences. 100% we believe there are differences. And they would call it discrimination. All right, now on the whole sexuality thing, 100% that we would be xenophobic, quote unquote, in terms of various things. Some places it applies, some places it doesn't apply. For example, in medical treatment, for example, it doesn't apply. We look after people in that sense. But in terms of treating them the same in a team, are you kidding me? So we're picking and choosing. And this is not becoming of the Muslim. We don't pick and choose unless we're doing it in the political way that we're doing it, where we're saying that, we want to now report racism X and problem Y and problem Z because this is criminal in your system, not in ours. Not in ours, because once you bring it back down to your religion, you better realize that you now become a major hypocrite. And I know that there are some people out there that disagree and say, no, we shouldn't have this approach, blah, blah, blah. But I'm never gonna, I will take every insult in the world. I will take every criticism in the world. I don't mind being called whatever, but the one thing that I will not die upon is someone calling me a hypocrite. The one thing that I am super proud of is that whatever kind of level of criminal and sinner I am, hypocrisy is something I will not allow. And I don't mean hypocrisy in the Islamic terms, because all of us are in danger of nifaq from a Islamic point of view, in terms of poor worship and other issues. But I mean hypocrisy from the Western definition. I will not be a hypocrite. I will not be calling out a country or an action or whatever when I know that if I'm in power, I will do the same. And I've spoken about this before a lot as well. I don't have I've mentioned I don't have problems people invading Muslim countries. I don't have a problem, because I'll tell you right now, and I say it again, when the Muslims have that power, we are going to invade this world in a way that they're going to make tawbah that they ever step foot into our countries, touched our people, did this, that. But difference is we do it legitimate way. We won't do it via bombs and terrorism and X and Y and Z. No, we'll do it via state. We'll warn them. We'll be in that situation that we want reparations, we want damages, we want compensation. You're not paying it. Be prepared now for this war, that war. No double standards. That's what it will be. This is what I've always said, and that's why I will not be I will not be complaining, and I won't be going to protest X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. Unless, like I said, it's something which is illegal according to their laws, and then I'm going to call it out. And I'm not going to call it out because of my thingy. I'm calling out according to your system, just to show how pathetic you are as a people. If they turn around and say to me, but what about you? I was like, oh, no, wait. If we're judging by my standards, that's something else. But we're not, are we? Because you hate Sharia and you don't want Sharia and you don't want whatever, so it's irrelevant. I kind of went off into a tangent, but I hope that I explained, in summary, what I want to say is this. Every one of us, Muslims, especially, and anyone who has an ethnic background knows of the problem of racism at the institutionalized level. We all have to be better and better. So that's something which we know. There's nothing new there. Number two, we are guilty of doing a lot of things. Like, for example, I'll give you a classic, we do crimes as well. We've got to be very careful what we call other people out on. Number two. Number three, it is very important to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. It's an obligation at times, depending upon how much power you have and how much protection you have. And we should do that. But it is based upon ability, and you should not be looking down upon players that don't want to speak out, or people who don't want to speak out because they fear for their job. They are obligated according to their level, and their level can be weak, and that's why the hadith of Iman is applicable there as well. But the stronger you are, the braver you are, the more respect that you will get, and the more respect you will deserve. Another learning summary point is that there are phrases that we say and things that we do which genuinely are questionable, like, calling everyone gora, whatever, whatnot. I wouldn't think twice about it. But then, people now they get uncomfortable when I say that or people say that. Pak, for example. I've been saying pak for all my life, and I will say it. There are Pakistani folks that get very upset when I say that. Where's the right? Where's the wrong? I'm not going to allow other people to dictate my language and my beliefs. A classic example is in this explanation here. I was going to say you've got to be better than the rest. You've got to work harder than the West. The popular phrase for that is that you've got to be whiter than white. Now, I've been saying that all my life, and I still say that. But there are people who hate hearing that now because, part of the Black Lives Matter is now making everybody super paranoid about their speech. Paranoid in the good sense, right? But then that can go too far. Is whiter than white really actually racist? Is it a subconscious phrase which is anti-black? I can see the argument. I never saw it before. I'm also part of the people learning about language and this and that and whatever. Okay? So what I'm saying is that there are things that we used to say in a different era, which I don't think now in the current kind of culture, we should say it. Now, not because we believe that rules change, but because in Islam, generally, we are asked to say things that people don't get upset at. And the least people that you can upset, that's a good thing Islamically, which is very different from us thinking it's something haram. So I definitely, let me tell you, make it clear to you, I have no problem whatsoever with whiter than white. I don't accept the power structure behind it, the colonial mindset, the unconscious bias. I don't accept the argument, sorry. But I will stop saying it if you as a black person get super offended when I say it. And you're not just one person, there's a few of you, or whatever. And I will not say it because I don't want to upset my black brother, black sister. I just don't want to upset them. But do I agree? Not one little bit, do I agree. So there's also a point there that there's a lot of subjectivity in the debate around racism as well. And that's what can make the situation quite uncomfortable, quite difficult to kind of hold people accountable over, or threaten their jobs, or lead to their expulsions, or XYZ, blah, 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 blah. There's so many gray areas. It's not easy to deal with this. And I don't want to be the person calling out or every white person for these gray areas that I also exist in and I also use back at them. I want to concentrate on the real criminals. And I think that's what we should be doing. Andrew Gale at Yorkshire Cricket Club is a real criminal. Martin Moxon at Yorkshire Cricket Club is a real criminal dog. Michael Vaughan is a dog. Bumble, I don't put under this. David Lloyd. Hutton wasn't at all. There are other people in the game. Bresnan, by the way, a very interesting thing. Yeah, I don't think so as well. Balance, also, I don't think so as well. And by the way, neither do the other people. Those who were actually sworn at, they don't either. But some of this will not get a testimony. There's lots more to here to meet the eye. But anyway, I just want to say that there's a lot to learn. Azim was incredibly brave. Jazakallah khair. May Allah protect him. He did a lot. May Allah guide him. He's come a long way as well. He wasn't practicing at a lot of the time when this was happening. That doesn't excuse it, of course. He's now also in a better place, etc. And you know, Sar, we've all got these versions. We've all got these yani stories. We've got so many of them. And Noor, you're right, okay, in that he just he fobbed it off. When you say that does it happen? Of course it does. But he's saying, I don't recall it. Okay? Bro, you know what I mean? That is very everyone recalls it. Guys, what's happened to this class, man? You tell me now. Okay, let's at least do this for the class, just so that no, it's not all over. It's never all over. Okay? There's a lot to speak about this. I just want you to say that at no point, now it's Sheikh Al-Thaymeen's opinion. I want to summarize by saying that the racism argument is incredibly nuanced, and anyone who thinks it's as simple as you have to speak up or that is definitely wrong or that's definitely racist is just ignorant of the dynamics of language, of culture, of Sharia. Okay, there are people who don't like using the word ayyamul biyad, like with that, there's a deeper point. I said that there's a deeper point. The deeper point is that the deeper point is, you can either look at this with that if you're still with us, okay, all right. So whenever you're critiquing an argument Islamically, right, in Sharia, we always go via the isnad. We always focus on authenticity. We destroy arguments by making sure that there's no argument in the first place. When that fails, or when we cannot get a conclusive enough argument, if you are qualified enough, then you move to a very dangerous, very risky approach, which is the naqd of the matan itself, which is to try to refute an argument from a holistic sense. And there have been arguments that have been put forward that are so woke that you kind of feel, honestly, this is ridiculous. Ayyamul Biyad can't possibly be the 3 middle days, because why would color be brought into it? Okay, the hadith are not so weak, so we can't go down that line, but would the days be called white? And then you open up a deeper kind of narrative which exists in Islam, of course, and that is the juxtaposition of black and white versus bright and dark, and whether we should start retranslating white and black every time the Prophet ﷺ or the Quran mentions it, and versus then in our current time, because people get so offended by that, to now moving to bright and dark, and whether that discussion was happening before. And that's the deeper point. There are kind of indications that such discussions had kind of primordial kind of mentions here and there, but today is now getting out of control. That's like, yeah, it is actually on Islamic blog. I used to write about this back in the day, and it is hidden behind kind of whatever. Now it is warda, of course it is. That's for most of us don't have a problem with that. But this is what I'm trying to say. The conversation is being hijacked by wokeness, which is becoming crazy. Mental illness is exactly the same. There's a lot to be said about this whole kind of phraseology, and it's a mess because it hurts the mental illness reality. The mental illness stupidity and extreme use of it for absolutely everything and anything is actually hurting the real mental illness. I don't need a podcast because that would be a disaster. It will be the longest podcast on podcast world, all right? And that was the case. So I just want to say that I want to just finish off this time issue, okay? The time issue of thingy. Please, nobody say a single thing so I can just say what I want to say. Honestly, the intersection between Islamic studies and wokeness, or the Sharia, actually the intersection between the Sharia and wokeness. I could speak about this subject, wallahi, for a week. Anyway, so we just want to speak about duha and what is its best time. The Prophet ﷺ gave us a hadith no, we're not doing this next week. I have to finish this because I want to start a new section next week, and I'm in Pakistan next week, so I need to completely finish duha. All right, so I need 10 minutes to finish this, right? So Sheikh Uthaymeen says that it just before zawal is maybe 10 minutes before zawal, or 15-20 minutes before the start time of dhuhr, okay? So that's fine in terms of the time limits. But what should be the best time that you pray Salatul Duha? And that's not including Salatul Ishraq, which is what I'm going to cover next week, okay? Salatul Duha, Sheikh Uthaymeen puts it forward here, وَفِعْلُهَا فِي آخِرِ الْوَقْتِ أَفْضَلِ. To pray the Duha prayer later is better, okay? Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Salatul Awwabin حين ترمض الفصال. وهذا في صحيح Muslim. This hadith is in Sahih Muslim, hadith number 748, okay? And Sheikh Uthaymeen, he quotes this hadith that the prayer of the awwabin, the prayer of the repentant is when the camels feel the heat, when the young camels feel the heat. What does that mean, when the young camels feel the heat? So they would be sitting on sand, obviously, kneeling down, bodies touching, lying down, etc., etc. And after a couple of hours of sun on the sand, it starts to get hot, and then the young camels basically start to become uncomfortable, and then they start to look for shade. What time is that? Now, you need a good couple of hours of proper sun. Now, if you look at, when you look at, so this is good. Bilal's got the translation of this hadith. Good. The prayer of the penitent or the repentant should be observed when the young weaned camels feel the heat of the sun. Good. And that sun is linked to the sand. Yep. That's obviously me from translating by general. Whatever. Anyway, Sheikh Uthaymeen says, وَهَذَا يَكُونْ قُبَيْلَ الزُّوَالِ بِنَحْوَ 10 دقائق تقوم من شدة حر الرمضاء. This extreme heat of the sand occurs just before zawal. before 10 minutes. Now, how can I argue with the scholar of scholars who lives in a desert and all the rest of it, and he has camels and sees camels, and I don't live in a desert and don't have camels or anything? But I want to say to you that this is a very interesting statement where he said that this is 10 minutes before. I don't think it's that late. And the scholars very much differed over him with that. So even though Sheikh Uthaymeen's position is that the best duha prayer is like, so in modern times, it's like a 11:30, 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, 11:30. That's according to Sheikh Uthaymeen. And other scholars said that no, this is a 9 o'clock, a 9:30. That's because sunrises occurred at 6, 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock sun is too weak, but 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock sun is strong and heavy. A couple of hours of that and it starts to become uncomfortable. The hadith doesn't mention that they get burned, it's they can become uncomfortable. They start to move because it becomes uncomfortable. So they're now more towards 9 and 10. Then there are other positions which I want to recount to you. So I'm going to translate something. وهيج الشمس دخل تحت أمي. أيوة. So Sheikh Muhammad Mukhtar al-Shanqiti, he says that you will find that the young camels, when the sun gets a bit too much, then they start to hide underneath their mothers, or they will start to go towards the trees. وفهذا الوقت Sheikh Muhammad Mukhtar al-Shanqiti says الذي هو ما بعد طلوع الشمس إلى ساعتين أو ساعتين وقليل هو أفضل أوقات صلاة الضحى. Look at this, right? Sheikh Muhammad Mukhtar al-Shanqiti says that this time is about 2 to 2.5 hours after 2 to 2.5 hours after sunrise. So if we say sunrise is around 7 o'clock or something like that, okay, then that's now gone to what I'm talking about, which is 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Look at the difference between these times. There's 2 hours off. I know that Sheikh Uthaymeen has got his position, but I just think that he's really, really late on this. He really, really is late. Now, I want to finish by saying this. Which one do I think is better? I am definitely in the camp that the best time is around the 9 or 10 o'clock for a number of reasons. The class position. That is because this is the actual time that it starts to get uncomfortably hot. A classic example actually, is, so when I do an Umrah program, when I do the Umrah program, it's in Mecca, it's in Medina, sorry, it starts. And one of the key things that we do is that we go to Uhud, the Mount of Uhud. And to go to the Mount of Uhud and to logistically to get it all sorted out, we normally go in the morning, okay? I want to say to you right now that even in the wintertime, let alone summer, when we get there around 8:30 and we stand outside, the people are finished after 5 minutes. The people are finished after 5 minutes. Bro, they feeling like they're getting sunstroke. You've seen videos of me speaking on the Mount of Arches a number of times, and it's a major concern how to, time it right. So I don't know why Sheikh Uthaymeen said that it's so late. It's definitely in the 9 o'clock region, which I think is best. That's the first reason. That's hot enough. The second reason is that the scholars used to say that 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, a couple of hours before Dhuhr, is such a dead period for ibadah that it's called waqtul ghafla, an hour of heedlessness, or the time period of heedlessness. People are so into the dunya at that moment because Business would start 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, not like 9:30. And we're so far away from a prayer. So if you go towards the afternoon period, you've got Dhuhr, and then it's broken up 2 hours later by Asr, then it's broken up 2 hours later by Maghrib, it's broken up 2 hours later by Isha. There's always something happening. Whereas the morning period is the period where after sunrise, that's it, you are 5-6 hours stretch where there's no ibadah happening. Nothing's happening, right? And so people get really hooked up into their markets and into their business and into their culture and so on. And so people are further away from ibadah. And the scholars therefore said that one of the reasons why the duha prayer was so important is to keep the day in balance, right? So that you don't have that. You know, by the way, the Prophet ﷺ, before the 5 prayers, who knows what the 5 prayers were? Sorry, before the 5 prayers, before the 5 prayers were obligated, what did the prayers that the Prophet ﷺ read? Anyone know? And that's true, by the way. The 7S Sony £5,000 camera lens, blah blah blah, super. It's a camera which I use to broadcast a class for 8 hours and doesn't overheat. It overheated in Uhud in winter. I'm talking about the day, guys. Mahira and Danish, I'm talking about the daytime. Who knows? Who remembers the 2 prayers? I've given you a clue, but anyways, 2 prayers that the Prophet ﷺ would pray, obligated upon him before the prayer became obligatory, before 5 prayers were legislated. No? Anyone? The hadith are not so strong on this, but strong enough. No? No, no, and no. The answer is Salatul Duha and Salatul Asr. And this is because there are different explanations for this. This is because of al-ashiyyi wal-ishraq. There's a general idea that the ashi, which is evening, and ishraq, which is basically after sunrise. So the idea would be that these are the 2 opposite ends of the day. The 2 opposite ends of the day, meaning the morning time and the evening time. And evening is not night time. Evening is the end of Asr time. So it's actually very interesting that even before the 5 prayers were legislated, that he would pray in the night, we know that, but in the daytime it would be Duha and Asr, which is basically like a symmetry, trying to split the day so that there's no mega long period of time without prayer, trying to minimize the problem as much as possible. Now, but you know that, and you look at our current day, we all know, and I've spoken about this before, that Dhuhr prayer is one of my favorite prayers because you're just desperate to make sajda, because the whole morning you've been just, battering, work and this and that. So the scholars said that to pray 9-10 o'clock, which is a time where you're most forgetful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's your highest state of ghafla. This is an act of ibadah which is more beloved, because the ibadah which is done at times of ghafla, it has greater value, So I hope that you understand what I'm trying to say. It makes more sense. Something which is, I could go on about it, and there's some very nice kind of statements and examples. But Sheikh Uthaymeen, Sheikh Muhammad Mukhtar al-Shanqiti says here, وكان بعض العلماء يستحب أن تكون في أول اشتداد النهار. There are some scholars that said that you should pray right at the beginning of the day, so that would be like a 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, because of the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya ibn Adam, ikfini arba raka'atin fi awwal an-nahar, and then I will, if you give me 4 units in the beginning of the day, and I will look after you at the end of the day. This hadith is not very strong, but the idea that start the day well and I'll end it well for you. So you should pray those extra rak'at earlier. So there's these different competing narratives. No authentic, clear hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about exact time, but we do have an idea that that the prayer of the repentant people, those who are seeking repentance and are pure and righteous, pious people, they pray in the morning time when it gets quite hot. That's the only thing we have from Hadith of Prophet ﷺ. Now that can happen actually 7 and 8 o'clock. It can be argued it's hot enough. Danish gave you the example there. 9, 10 o'clock without shadow of a doubt is boiling, and a late morning is super hot. Sheikh Uthaymeen's definitely, going with that opinion. So I've just given you 3 opinions there. Logically, they could all make sense. Our class position is 9, 10 o'clock. It is when it is uncomfortably hot. It is at that time which is halfway through the last prayer which you did, which was an ishraq, and the dhuhr prayer at the beginning time. That is the I'm sorry I had to put you through the AC noise, but I think it's frankly absurd that you guys can complain about the AC when you got all that bakwas going on in the background, hooting and heating, and Cairo is still alive. The AC is the least of the problems. So anyway, that's the class position. I hope that makes sense, guys. Any questions I will now do on the what's it called? The Telegram, inshallah, maybe tomorrow. And I apologize again for the class being hijacked, but it was a very important one. And we do say in logical progression that from time to time, we will deal with very, very pertinent issues. And this is a very important one. Next week, inshallah, the class, unless it changes, but as it stands, 1:30 p.m. UK time. 1:30 p.m. UK time, and it's going to be live. And there will be a few changes for the next couple of classes. The week after that, it'll be even earlier. But I'm going to stick to this principle of making it live so that at least some people can make it. Okay? Some people can, I think so 1:30 p.m. and then the week after that might be 11 or 11:30 a.m. UK time. But I let you know on Telegram. That's the fundamental place. And I think that's it. Okay, guys? Is it okay if you keep the fast at 2 days? Yes, it is okay. You won't get the reward for everything, but it is pro rata, inshallah. Pro rata. All right, guys. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullah khair. Again, my apologies. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa astaghfiruka Allahumma wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Reception wasn't too bad. It was okay. It survived. This is your barakah. Take care, guys. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.